the vinyl leader.
What's shaking, everybody? Thank you for being here. What is up with Phish? That's the story today. We got to get to the bottom of it. What is going on? Ever since Group Seeker and I have developed a friendship, which has blossomed into something even, just we're best buds at this point. But ever since the beginning, Chris has been like, bro, Phish? Because we hit on a lot of stuff. He's like, Grateful Dead, yes. Frank Zappa, yes. Jazz, yes. When you start going down the list with your new friends and stuff, and he got the Phish, and I was kind of like, You hear that a lot, I bet.
Yeah, like at least once a week in my life, for sure.
But then you have a strategy for converting
Attempted
people
conversion.
over. Attempted conversion. What's up, Vinyl Piper? Vinyl Piper has never gotten a Phish, but haven't given them a chance. The guitar player was great with Dead and Co. Well, this might be a good stream for you. We're going to get into it. So what happened was, I thought it'd be fun. I was, oh man, we should do a stream where you try to convert me over, like send me some stuff. And like, we just try to figure out how we were going to, how would we present it? And, I thought it would be fun, and, so today's the day. We started talking a few days ago and was like, all right, dude, let's do this. And then he sends me over a list. First, you weren't sure you wanted to do it. I have a feeling, look, it's a lot of pressure because, he's like, I'm sure, and I want to speak for you, but you want to figure, as friends, all of us, right? It's like, we all love music. We all have great friends. We want to share that music with our best friends. We want to connect on the stuff that we love. And nothing's more disappointing than, you try to pass someone on, man, listen to this song, is so great. And they're just like, I don't get it. So anyway, I have a feeling there was a lot of pressure on you, man. So kudos for just jumping in with both feet on this.
Yeah, well, first I just want to clarify something that you keep on saying convert. I just want you to know this isn't a cult. This isn't a cult. Okay. Second thing is no, not well. It depends. Second thing is, for me, this isn't an agenda that's driven to a lot of people in my life. But when I see someone has either a wide selection of musical interests or an eclectic or both, or they like performance and they like live music and they like things different, I'm like, oh, this might be somebody that might be interested in this if they have it. The third thing is the real pressure, which I'll get into in a bit, is this is a very demanding fan base. Okay. And I don't want to come across as the authority, because there is thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of fans that probably know way more than I do and would have a different approach to this, which I'll explain later. But that's where the real pressure comes. My expectations are very low on this. So I'm interested to see what your feedback is. And, one of the things Vinyl Piper's bringing up is a great comment, which is in my back pocket for later. There's some stuff I held back about one of the band members that might be appealing to you, or you might have experienced and not realized. But this is a big undertaking.
I mean, there's so many factors, right? It's kind of like when it comes to music in general. I mean, I've been on here saying many times that sometimes it's when you're young, your ear is impressionable, and the stuff that you hear tends to be the stuff that you're just going to listen to, or it's going to influence kind of the stuff that you like. And that's certainly my story. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I remember we were joking because Questlove and Ad Rock were having a discussion, and Questlove kept drilling Ad Rock, thinking like, oh, I'm going to catch him on, like, he loves new stuff or he's spinning vinyl all the time. And Ad Rock's like, look, dude, that was a different life. Like, I don't listen to new stuff. It's not for me. And in this case, look, I'm not saying that Phish is new stuff, but I'm just saying it's new to me. And stuff like that, and he's like, and I don't spin. I mean, I'm listening to like Spotify or whatever, or Apple or whatever it was. It was very dad answer. And it was funny because I'm like, it's so refreshing that he admits to it, because I'm like, yes, I mean, dude, come on, man. I haven't been, the last 20 years of music, like I'm not out there buying the latest, greatest and all that stuff. I got the stuff I like. It's mostly stuff I grew up with. There's a history with it. There's nostalgia tied to it. Phish is not that thing for me. I just never got the exposure.
Mm. So what before I sent you on this 5K journey, because this is just the beginning, what were some of your stereotypes or preconceived notions about the band, the music, the scene around the band, cultural of the band? Like wh- what's your spins Wikipedia understanding of Fish and good experiences, bad experiences, whatever the case may be?
It's a good question. I think I heard about Phish through other people, and the way they explained it was kind of a, I don't want to say it was a turnoff, but it wasn't anything that impressed me enough to go listen. You'd hear stuff, and this is going way back. I mean, this is going back probably to the 90s. You'd hear stuff like Deadheads, and this is kind of like the new Grateful Dead scene. You'd hear like words, and I took it as like a really derivative of the Grateful Dead. And if I'm being honest, like before you and I spoke about it, I think that's what the image that was in my head is that, oh, this is just going to be a Grateful Dead cover band, or if not a cover band, a band that came out of Grateful Dead. My girlfriend's right here. She actually likes Phish, the Grateful Dead and Phish.
Awesome.
So it's kind of funny, but that's sort of what I thought, dude. And to be honest with you, I never put effort into it. I never attempted to listen to Phish. I just in my head, I'm like, why? Like, if I just assumed it wasn't going to be for me. And I'm like, hey, there's enough music to listen to, what's one more thing? And I didn't want to put the work in, you know what I mean? Like it was just that kind of thing. I was just kind of like, look, I don't want to be disappointed. I already know it's going to sound like the Grateful Dead. And it's a major assumption on my part, right? Sometimes we have that kind of biased, unfair opinion. It could be that we heard one song too many times on the radio. It could be that someone that we hate likes that band or whatever it is. And for me, I had a massive Phish bias, negative bias.
Yeah. Listen, I think there's a huge association with the Grateful Dead for probably two major reasons. I think the first reason is that a lot of Phish's come up runs in parallel with the downslope of the Dead and the passing of Jerry.
Right.
And I think in a sense that they fall into the jam band category, the broad category. I think anytime you hear a jam band, I think you automatically associate with the Grateful Dead. I don't really consider Phish a jam band, even though they do jam. I think that there's I think that they do have jam band sensibility. They do have jam band features, but I find that to be a very negative description of a band, even if they're in that scene.
Yeah.
I think that a second piece is they have an absolute reverence for the Grateful Dead, and rightfully so, like so many bands do. And obviously, there's interconnectivity there. In 1999, Trey, the guitar player, and Paige, the keyboard player, played the first three Phil Lesh and Friends shows at the Warfield. They were part of the featured lineup, and Phil rotated over the years so much. And for the Fare Thee Well tours, Trey basically sat in for Jerry's parts and did a pretty reputable job. I think if Trey was more available, you probably would have seen him with Dead and Company rather than Mayer. It's no knock on Mayer, but obviously Trey has his own thing. I think that Phish is more like Zappa and early Genesis than the Grateful Dead in a lot of ways. And I think that people kind of stereotype, oh, it's going to be like the Grateful Dead. Like, there's influence there. There's no doubt. There's overlap culturally and musically, but they're very different. They're very, very different in a lot
Well,
of ways.
I think the thing with the Grateful Dead for me, and I'm not even the biggest Deadhead by far, I'm a dead, I was born into it. You know, I came in, the first thing I ever remember hearing was Grateful Dead music. You know, Europe 72 and Skull and Roses played. And before I could even walk or talk, I just remember that. And so it's the most deepest ingrained DNA music in my life is the Grateful Dead. And it carried on for generations as a kid growing up in the family listening to it, among other things. And then when I grew up, and you know, my mom would listen to it, all the new albums that they would come out during the 80s. I was still living at home, and we listened to every new album that came out. I saw the Grateful Dead live multiple occasions when Jerry was in the band and even after. And I think what happens is there's a real, I don't know, proprietary is the right word, but there's a protective kind of thing around that. And you could take your favorite band and then say, this band is like that band. And you're going to go, whoa, wait a minute. No band is like this band. And you have every reason why it's not. Now, I'm just saying that's, in my case, this is going to be a very personal video because I'm just saying in my case, my introduction to the word Phish and who they were was, it's like the Grateful Dead. And that's an immediate turnoff for me. That's like saying it's like Zappa even. Those just happen to be too deeply ingrained bands, artists for me that I'm just so protective of that when I hear that, it's difficult for me to give it a shot. You know, I'm not someone that's eager to be like, oh, it's like the Grateful Dead, let's check it out. Or sounds like Zappa, that's great. And so I'm not saying I'm right in this, but I'm just saying that it's there. That little cocoon is there.
Yeah, and I think, look, I think there are plenty of bands, well known and unknown, and all in between, that sound like other bands, but no one ever says it. It's just a reality of you sound like your influences. I think that what's more important about the comparison to the Grateful Dead or Zappa, I think that's a very high compliment because it's the philosophy and the approach to what they're doing. It's not that they're ripping off the sound. You can clearly hear the influences at times. You can hear the band members talk in high reverence of those musical acts and many other musical acts. But I think it's wrong to say to somebody, if you like the Grateful Dead, you will absolutely like Phish. There's a possibility you will, and there's certain connections there that make it easy to understand where they're coming from. But that's like saying, because you like Miles Davis, you'll like Kenny G. Not true.
I actually have something to say about that. I just want to remind people, because I know people are trickling in. This is not just a straight up conversation about Phish. There's a point here. Chris sent me, let's just break into it because I want to make sure that people understand what's going on. Is Chris, we decided to do this show and I said, Chris, this is the show, dude. Convince me. Send me something that is going to get, take your best shot. That kind of thing. So he sends me a couple different playlists, right? YouTube playlists, and then he shoots me 2 records that I should go listen to. So I'm gonna review that. I did that. I did my homework. I'm gonna review it. He and I are going to talk about it. And then, of course, we're going to end with a game, a Phish game. And I'm going to share the link. You guys get to get involved. So that's going to be fun, too. So it's not just going to be us, going back and forth for an hour about Phish necessarily like this. We're just kind of teeing it up for you guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want people to understand what's happening today.
No, I understand. And I just want to take a minute. I think we could take a minute here. There's a couple of people in the crowd that I want to shout out, already making some comments. Andy G, fellow Phish fan here, welcome. Vinyl Piper, never really got into him. Now, I don't know Vinyl Piper personally, but I follow him on socials. And I feel like, based upon the music I think he listens to or what he's been posting, I feel like he's right on the fringe of being
You're next, Vinyl Piper. You're next.
Cesar says, yes, this is a show only about Phish. Yes, it's only about Phish. He's never heard them. We're going to recommend only about Phish,
but we're going to have fun today. We're going to have fun.
Yeah, we're going to recommend some stuff you could check out. He says, I don't like the Grateful Dead since you're comparing them. Well, that's the whole point, is that you kind of have this affiliation with the Dead and Phish, like Jason walked into, and that might have turned him off. So there's some
Well, and
similarities
Grateful
there.
Dead is there's similarities in the sense that Grateful Dead can be a tough sell for people, right? It's not a dissimilar phenomena to Phish, you know? Um,
Right.
so yeah.
I'll also want to shout out Felipe for being here. Felipe will
What's
be
up,
at a show
Felipe?
eventually. He
Thanks for
will
being
be
here.
on tour. Dead Bob's in the house. So Vinyl Piper, I don't know if we're playing Phish. I don't really know what's going on. Much like the band's approach to their live shows, I usually don't know what the deal is. And one last shout out, Rojas is in the house, and I vowed to Rojas if he joined the stream and viewed it tonight with comments that I would never send him a Phish video again. So this is a really big, it's a really big fork in the road for
I
me and
took
him. I
one
don't know
for
what
the
I'm going to send
team,
him.
Rojas.
So here's the thing. I think it's important to know why I love this band and why I'm so passionate about them. And
Keep it under 30 minutes.
I'm gonna try to keep it under one Phish Jam's length. They came to me at a time where live music was the most important thing musically for me. Where I was seeing a lot of shows of all different genres and acts, and when I got exposed to them, uh, nothing was like a concert, and there is nothing like a Phish performance for a lot of different reasons, which we'll discuss. I also like
Oh my god,
bands.
another Grateful Dead reference. There's nothing like a Grateful Dead concert, dude. Those were on bumper stickers back in the day.
Yeah, except Phish is better. But
I'm losing you. I'm losing you.
the other thing too is I like bands that are unclassifiable and have their own unique sound. It doesn't mean that they're more sophisticated. It doesn't mean that like they sound better. It doesn't mean that their music's better. I just like bands that define a signature sound about them. And to me, this is one of the few bands in the past several years, I say like 40 years, that march to the beat of their own drum, and they've had success doing that. And the remarkable thing about them is, and part of the journey that's so awesome, is that you could listen to the same Fish song from different times in their career, and they challenge their own music, which is interesting. They change what they do with the music. They change the tone of the band over time. They've changed the approach of the band over time on the same songs, and they're constantly reinventing themselves. And I think that they, more than any other live act ever, or it may potentially any other band ever, they take more chances than anybody has, and they're not afraid to fail. And when you get into the band and you start to go through the eras of sound and key performances, key eras, key tours, just like so many other bands, you start to realize the evolution and the way they reinvent themselves by by challenging themselves to create something new out of something that already exists, which is a really difficult thing to do.
And
What I
requires
say,
trust from the fan base, right?
this is what I'm getting at, is that you I had never have any expectations when I walk into a Fish show.
Neither do
I
I.
know it's gonna I know it's gonna I know it's gonna be good. And I know it's gonna be good because they're not gonna get up there and just play the 15 power songs and get through it and mail it in. That doesn't mean they're not gonna have bad nights. Doesn't mean they're not gonna fail. But that's also part of the game, is that the fans are aware when something special is happening, when something's a dud, when it's just mediocre. It's not like you're gonna go see them, 3 times on the same tour, and maybe you'll get a different song in the encore. You're gonna go and they don't oftentimes really understand what they're gonna play, and even there's one video I sent you, they called an audible. To open the show, they called an audible. So, it's like, to me, that's so appealing, and I think when we started connecting on music, the number one reason why I put you on to them is because you like jazz. And to me, I'm not saying that they have elements of jazz chops in their playing, but they're approaching that music the same way some of the greats did, by taking those chances and pushing boundaries. The difference is that they're revisiting what they have already written and established to push those boundaries rather than always just creating something new, even though they have a lot of albums.
Well,
And you
can I
see
comment
it.
on that? Or I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
interrupt you.
absolutely.
Well, I was just going to
Yeah,
say, is that, you know, the two names that come up most frequently when we talk about this is Grateful Dead and Zappa. And the two characteristics that you just mentioned are uh, st- uh, staples or whatever you want to say of each of them. So one is taking chances and the fan base allowing them to take chances because that's art and that's how you grow and that's how something special happens. And that's the Grateful Dead in spades, right? For decades, the Grateful Dead got to go up there and do their own thing. And you might see a dud of a show one day, and then you might see a masterpiece the next day. But allowing that freedom is what allowed that to happen. And the second thing, which I'd compare to Frank Zappa, is changing up the music over time. And I used to get into this discussion with my dad, who'd be like, you know, the Grateful Dead can play two different versions of Althea, and they're totally different. I'm like, that's true, but no one that I know of ever did it like Zappa. Zappa would completely redo a song. It didn't even sound like the same song anymore. And he took massive liberties with his own music over the years and stuff. That's something that I always thought was cool because you can listen to one show from, you know, 75 and listen to another one from 85, and it will just be completely different music, even though it's the same, you know, foundation, which is crazy. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. Let me get your final thought in. Sorry.
no, that's fine. And I think, and I don't want to paint the picture that they're rearranging songs. There's a couple they've done that with, which is like a rarity to see and really cool. But it's it's outside of the core of the song when they get into that improvisational portion of the show of the song. That's where you see the chances getting taken. That's where you see the spontaneity of like, you know, they played one song, they're in a jam, and you can hear remnants of another song that they play, and they're talking to each other. And you know, the bass player Mike Gordon might start playing notes of a song, and Trey gets that signal, and Trey wants to go there, so they go there.
Right.
Or Fishman starts to play a groove on the drums, and Gordon hears it, and he doesn't want to go there, so he fights that. He resists that path, and the fans speculate on what might be happening, but then they start to develop a vocabulary with the band, and they say, "Oh, you can see Mike and John might have tension tonight, or Mike and John are in the pocket, and Trey and Mike are
Well, and
at
you're
odds."
describing nuances that require a familiarity with the band, right? Like,
Right.
I think when you're first getting into it, you're probably that stuff's going to be lost on you until you really start to dig in there. Probably, I would, you know.
But that's the beauty of it. It's like you know, you can, it's like rewatching a film. If you watch like one of your favorite films over and over again, you pick up on subtleties. You know, there's the memorable quotes, but then there's level 2 and 3 of the quotes that are like inside jokes to other people who like the film. That's also a big piece of it. Like the the relationship of the fans with the band in a way is one big inside joke. It's one vocabulary that you don't necessarily get with a lot of other acts. You know, you could be a huge Clash fan, right? And you know, you could be a Clash freak, but there's a limitation to what that vocabulary says. The thing about Fish, because they're still going on, is that it's constantly evolving, and they also know how to shelve things. Like a lot of times throughout their trajectory, when they're done with something, you're never getting that sound back or that approach back. It's they've packed it up and moved it on, and they might get glimpses of it back on shows, or you might get signs, or you think it's going to go there and they yank the carpet away from you and they carry on to something else. And
Yeah.
that's like another thing. So you're right. It's not like giving somebody a Prince album for the first time, where like most of the time you immediately get it. He's a virtuoso, but he's a virtuoso of manufacturing like incredible albums. These guys are virtuistic in their approach to the music as a whole, and then what they do to push the boundaries from a live perspective, which is difficult to do. People are coming to see you, and you're willing to not be great in effort to be great. That takes a
Yeah.
lot of
Right. Right.
courage. Yeah.
I mean, that's the story of this show right here. I mean, yeah.
I agree. But one other
Well,
point I
so
wanna say, this isn't a knock
okay.
on, like, pop music or whatever, but,
I
like
do want I do wanna I'm gonna let you I want you to finish, but I wanna table some of this because I don't wanna give I wanna go into this a little bit blind so that I can give my initial thoughts on this for people that know
mhm,
he sent me a big playlist, he sent me some records to listen to. I'm gonna critique that, and, I'd like to table some of it so that we have stuff for, after this
okay.
too.
So 2 other quick comments. One is, just imagine, like, you're a huge Taylor Swift fan, and you go see Taylor Swift, and she decides to play all B-sides or unreleased stuff. Like, a majority of that show is gonna be pissed because they didn't get the hits.
Right.
A Phish fan would be like, "Oh, yes, like, we got the nugget, we got something new," whatever. The other thing is I have a really distinct message for the people that are Phish fans and maybe people that are watching us that are Phish fans. I wanna reemphasize this. I don't consider myself an authority on the band. There are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who know more than I know or have a different perspective or just have more experience with the band. So what I curated for Jason is based upon availability and accessibility. He doesn't have access to the same stuff I have as far as like shows and whatever the case may be. So I curated this specifically off YouTube, what was quickly available. Um, some fans are going to be upset that I didn't go to certain eras, but I just wanted to get high quality stuff out to Jason so he could start this because this isn't the end all be all. So I have to preface that because very critical fan base, and I could get stoned at the helm here for approaching this the wrong way. Because if
Well,
you
we
ask
could
the
both
100
get
fish,
stoned, but I
right?
mean,
If
that's
you
the thing
ask
I want
100
people
fish
to
fans, if you ask
well,
100 fish fans to do this, you're going to get 100 different approaches. So
yeah, exactly. And I just want to explain to people like what my sort of goals are here in general, just as a member of the vinyl community is honesty. We're doing this live so that you guys can get my honest thoughts in the moment. It's authentic. I'm not trying to boost anything. I'm not trying to crap on anything. I'm just going to give you my honest opinions. There's going to be times where Chris is going to cringe and be like, "No." And there's going to be times where maybe he's going to be like, "Yes, I see an in here." Um, that's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this. So I'm not taking a side. Like I just give you. I did a show last Friday where it was like I just give you my opinion, and I tried to remain as open-minded as possible. So you ready to get into this, brother?
yeah, man. Sorry.
All right, you're good. I'm gonna have to cut like 20 minutes out of that. I'm just kidding. All right,
Like a true fish show.
like a true Phish show. Um, all right, where do I start? Um, let me just say this. Here's the things I wanted to say earlier, which I didn't get said, but you and I are different, have a difference in age. There's at least a decade between us. I'm an 80s kid, you're a 90s kid. I think that is some useful information for people going into this. My DNA is Europe 72 and Skull and Roses from the Grateful Dead, discovering Frank Zappa in the 90s. I bring that up because I know there's some comparison to Phish there. I'm a glam rock, hair metal, early hip hop guy. Chris is a gangster rap, grunge guy. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. So just take that into consideration, I think, when we're doing this. I'm coming at this as a 50-year-old dude listening to Phish for the first time. Let's jump in. So Chris sends me, by the way, I gave a grade to each of these.
Wow.
I have to be on. Okay, here, I didn't have time for everything, bro. But so here's what I did. The first playlist you sent me was 5 videos. Watched them in their entirety. And then you sent me 2 albums. And I listened to those. You sent me another playlist, which I think was covers, right? I did not get to that
Mhm,
playlist. I felt this was probably the important stuff anyway. So I can get back to
mhm.
those covers. First show he sends me, and I'm going to be reading a lot of notes here because I wanted to make sure that I was recording the stuff in the moment. This is December 30th, 2019. And if you read the comment section, there's a lot of comments in there about like, oh man, starting at this timestamp It's some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard. So I'm kind of waiting for that moment. It's like halfway through it, like maybe 15 minutes in or something like that. This, it's a decent sized video. The second, okay, so about 15, 20 minutes of what I would qualify as instrumental jamming, basically. As I'm listening to it, it's very accessible. So that first video you sent me, I feel like it was in the pocket. It was not challenging rhythmically or anything like that, which is great. I felt like this is a great entry point for a lot of people because it's, this is going to be 4/4 major scale type stuff, right? This wasn't challenging, this first one, going into the first half of it. Again, not a criticism. I just want to like say that. Let's see, things that stood out to me. One of the first things that stood out was the bass. So the bass player on here. And of course, I'm hearing notes of Phil Lesh in my brain. I think like in this tune, he's definitely playing like a Phil Lesh role. What do I mean by that? Jazzy classical style, weaving in and out of the melody, picking moments where you can really come through. Almost like a horn player, like Phil would really play, the Grateful Dead. Part of the reason they get classified as a jam band, which, by the way, I think the Grateful Dead is far less a jazz band than Phish, at least what I've heard. So I'll preface with that. Is that, Phil will play very much on his own thing, but it still all connects. And there will almost always be a moment where all of a sudden you hear Phil come in and he'll set the band off into another direction. I'm hearing that on this Phish record, on this video. So again, it's very easy to listen to. It's very jammy. I think everyone could agree to that if you hear this. About halfway through, some synthesizer starts to kick in. You get some keyboards. You feel like you're listening again to a little bit of and again, these are just the words that came to mind in the moment. Kind of Grateful Dead meets Pink Floyd, I'm sort of thinking now at this time. There's a lot of Jerry Garcia guitar in here. And so what do I mean by that? Jerry had a very specific tone. He had very specific, filters on his guitar. He played a very specific way. He was very influenced by John Coltrane. His melodies are very finger picky and stuff like that. And so I'm picking those notes up here on this. So already this is a song that's very much exactly what I expected. I'm thinking, okay, this is the Grateful Dead I'm listening to basically, right? I get the sense while watching this that this would be a lot better if I was there. I'm like, man, if you're at this show, because you see the crowd is loving it, they're vibing out, and it looks like a fun time. I'm like, man, the musicianship is great. Although I'm still, this is a skeptical moment when I'm watching this first video. Let's see. I think it'd be so easy to kind of get caught up in the rhythm and tap your toe, nod your head kind of a thing. So far, no Frank Zappa. This is not a Zappa song, and there's no influence of Zappa here that I could hear. And of course, the spirit of Zappa and the way there's improvisation in Zappa music is very different from a lot of people. His shows were very much rehearsed, and a lot of the music that comes, the Zappa stuff that's more what was the word I just used? Improvisational is going to be something that's vamping in the background so that he can play a guitar solo over it. His guitar solos live are always going to be unique. Anyway, and then my last notes on this first one is I don't see any Zappa parallels yet. It almost feels like, sorry, Chris, it's trying too hard to capture what the Grateful Dead would do. And because I heard it first with the Grateful Dead feels more authentic to me. And this first video is making someone like me feel like this is a facsimile. They're trying too hard to be like the part of the Grateful Dead that's way more sort of improvisational and jammy. And it feels a little bit derivative to me. And so I graded the 5 things that he sent me in relation to each other. And this one gets a C for me. in relation to the other videos. So that was my very first impression of Phish, watching that first video that you sent me.
Yeah.
Any comments, or you want me to keep going?
No, I'll comment on that. So I was at this show in general admission with my best friend, and then one of my other best friends was up to the right of me at MSG with his wife and his brother-in-law. And this is pretty epic. This is a staple of one of their songs live that you can go on forums and phish.net and people will point out, specific performances of this song. And I think this ranks up there, not because of the length. The Grateful Dead never touched these heights. Not from a musician standpoint. The Grateful Dead never went off like this, dude. With the exception of like some spacey Dark Stars and
well,
some
that's why I
other
think the Grateful Dead get a bad rap as a jam band. Like
that's
they're a song band. They
They're
wrote some of the great American music of the 70s. I mean, they're not a jam band. They might live, they will connect to their music. They'll go out into drums, they'll do space, but a jam band, they're not. Phish,
No.
they're jamming on this tune. I mean, you can't deny it.
And I think what happens over time, if this is appealing to you and you go on this journey, is what seems like them just jamming for the sake of jamming, you start to recognize that they're searching for something.
Right. Well, and I get into that. So don't steal too much of my thunder. Don't steal too much of my thunder.
So I'm not offended that you give it a C, because I think in context for your first exposure, yeah, it makes sense. But over time, this becomes an A- for you if you go on the journey.
Yeah, who knows? So next up was August 4th, 2023. Very recent show, obviously. Show kicks right off. In terms of the video, it kicks off. What it made me think of is it kind of kicks into a very short, the feeling of like the Grateful Dead feeling their way into the next song. And you really only catch this if you've only heard the Grateful Dead records, even the live stuff. You never really catch these moments. But when you go to a show, there's a lot of like feeling oftentimes, maybe especially there's a period like in the 80s, I feel like, and where 70s were pretty tight. The late stuff is pretty tight, but there was this whole middle section for the Grateful Dead where it's like they're feeling for what's coming next. And there's a lot of kind of noodling into something as they kind of like figure out where are we going. To me, this video kind of starts that way. And anyway, they figure out where they're going. And again, this is just my interpretation. Let's see. And so they figure out where they're going and off they go. So far, my first thought is like, okay, I'm waiting to relate a little bit. And so haven't really gotten to that point yet. This is just the very beginning of the video. And I'm sort of getting this like, man, what am I missing here? Kind of feeling like I'm eager to like, because believe me, I'm trying to be as open-minded as possible. The first tune has some backing vocals, and I can't tell if it's a male or female. I think it's a female. It's a high register voice. And of course, the first thing that pops into my head is Donna Godchow from the Grateful Dead. And I'm like, gosh, just another piece where I'm like, man, okay. Because again, I'm going into this the only thing I have to go on, Chris, is that this Grateful Dead bias. And I'm trying not to, but they kind of keep putting me in that position to have to make that choice. So they break into an extended instrumental, no surprise. And all I can think of is that, again, it's kind of I don't want to sound like a beat a dead horse here, but again, I'm being reminded of kind of like, this is the Grateful Dead jammy parts. And I continue to listen. The guitar effects, again, Coltrane style noodling. I'm hearing Jerry on this one. Again, super jammy. By the second song, I'm just wondering, and also the way I'm feeling here, Chris, is like I'm sort of in a not this the second thing I've ever heard by Phish in my life. So, but I'm thinking like, where is this going? Like, is this really just gonna be a jam? Are we gonna land on something and a tune is gonna break out or something? Because that's what we would expect from the Grateful Dead and others. And I'm getting the sense of like, man, it's where are we going with this? I'm still thinking about, and again, my head's going to Grateful Dead. I hate to keep saying that, but video is pretty much a long jam, builds up to a crescendo. It becomes this like big like moment. The crowd goes wild, and that's kind of it. It's kind of this fanfare kind of thing that happens at the end with this crowd pleasing energy. And you cannot deny, with all the people that are on in that video, it's a massive crowd. These people are in rapture, man. They are loving life, and you want to be a part of it. Like, it's like, man, dude, I want to get this because I want to be a part of that. That's the end of the video. So by video 2, yeah, I'm a little bit like, man, this is going to be a long haul. But don't steal too much of my thunder, because no spoilers, but there's some evolution here as we go along. So
I was at this show too.
okay.
I saw them seven times in 9 nights at that MSG run, and this was kind of one of the peak things that happened. It wasn't a female singer. That's so Trey sings 85% of the songs, but they all take lead on that. It's kind of like the band, right? Another influence of theirs. Yeah, there is the transition there. You oftentimes when you see them, especially in the second set, everything is a transition.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a nice transition, sometimes it's a bumpy landing, sometimes it's like an abrupt stop and a break. This was to open a set, so they were just out there doing their noodling, and one of them probably gave them a nod, or gave a note, and they were like, "Oh, that's what we're playing. That's great."
Right.
And also, like, if I remember this correctly, I felt like there was some tension with Mike and Trey in the first set. Trey being the guitar player, and Mike being the bass player. Not tension in like a confrontational way, but I think felt like Mike was trying to talk to him about stuff through their music, and Trey wasn't hearing it. So to me, like, what was so special about this is that they come out in the second set and they open up with Mike's song, which is Mike's song, and he sings vocals, and it's like it is a crowd pleaser, but not in the sense of like a pop hit or something. It's just there. This is like, I'll tell you what, Mike's song, it's called Mike's Groove. It goes Mike's song, sometimes into I Am Hydrogen, into Weak Paw Groove. It's 3 songs.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have a Grateful Dead reference, this is like their Help Slip Frank, if you get the entire package. So this is like the first part of it, right? Into
Yeah,
the
right.
two,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay.
So this is why, like, there's such an epic thing. The second thing about this, you're right, the crowd, this is a very big tension and release band. They're bringing you to a place on the roller coaster where you are, and then all of a sudden they're just going to sock you and go off into something, or end
Right.
abruptly, or like, talk about that. So the crowd knows what's going on. And what's interesting about this version specifically is that in the second piece, Trey goes back into the riff, which he hadn't done in a long time. Like, he revisited the melody. So it was like, that's why the crowd goes, it's like, oh shit, he's going there. Similar to like, if you want to keep on using the Dead as a baseline, similar to like, oh my God, they haven't done Here Comes Sunshine in 7 years. Now all of a sudden the opening notes are playing and people are losing their mind.
Yeah,
So it's a lot of
those
that.
moments where they
There's always
play to the crowd goes wild. I mean, most bands
yeah.
have something like that. Yeah.
Right. But they're not, but my point is that I'm very confident that's not premeditated, that he decided to take that extra step. He was in the moment, and he's like, I'm going for it, and he went for it, and we all recognized he went for it, and we
Don't
were all
steal
like,
my
hell
thunder.
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I might actually be smarter than you think here. Let's see.
All right.
Because by the way, we did not talk about anything. I knew nothing about Phish before seeing this and making these notes. And since then, you've taught me more about Phish since this video started. So let me talk about this stuff. I gave that video a C.
Wow.
Okay, this one right here, video 3. Don't go anywhere.
Which one is it? Is this Sand from 12/31/99?
Sand, December 31st, 99. This is going into the new millennium. So here we go. This is New Year's Eve 20 going into 2000. Again, we're jamming into the first song. Again, when it first starts out, it's very accessible. At this point, Chris, I typed the word bored because I'm like, man, dude, this is I like, it's just it's another jam. Like, where's the songs? Where's the lyrics? Where's this? Music is straightforward, easy listening, hippie music at its best. I'm just waiting for a song to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It just seems like we're never gonna get there. We always have to go into some breakdown or extended bridge or something like that, sort of trippy keyboards on top of the most basic beat you've ever heard as they attempt to blow your mind with Pink Floyd-esque or The Who-esque trippy music. I'm just not buying it. And then, Chris, and then, ladies and gentlemen, you get through the first 5 to 7 minutes of this track. This is the December 31st, 1999 show. They start to go to this place, freaking finally, which is probably the best thing that I've heard. Absolutely. I put probably when I was first typing it out, but in retrospect, this was the best thing that I heard. You start to react physically, emotionally. They get locked the F into this hypnotizing meditation that is impossible to resist at this point. What's cool about that? Because we've been hearing jams the whole night. As I'm writing this, I'm cynical, if I'm being honest, but as they keep playing, they begin, in my mind, to discover something that I have not seen yet. They're vibing out, and it's probably the most inspired thing I've heard. I'm nodding my head. I'm starting to vibe out, which I was not expecting. The guitar tone is great. This is not Jerry for the first time. It's as if they've stumbled onto something and they want to keep it going as long as they can, man. It's like they just fell into this groove. It's jazzy, it's bluesy, it's kind of psychedelic. For the first time, I'm hearing a band that is really locked in, but in a more authentic way. Because I kept hearing Jerry, I kept hearing Phil, I kept in my brain because of what's in my DNA. I couldn't fully get into it. And now they're doing Phish. To me, I felt like, oh my God, do this. The rhythms are better here, in my opinion, more complex. I get the feeling that it's not trying to be something now. It's a bunch of guys vibing out, and for the first time, I can just enjoy the music without feeling like it's derivative. I'm hearing something else. I keep getting distracted because of what I call, references that I'm hearing. It was a fantastic experience. At the very end, I was kind of so because I was so excited in this moment, and I felt like this was a discovery, and I was like, holy crap, finally, this is what I've been waiting for and hoping for. As I was ready to nod off, this is what was happening. There was the way it ended almost was disappointing because I started to hear a little noodling and this little China cat kind of riff going on. And I'm like, no, please don't deteriorate back into what I was hearing before. Don't make it a Grateful Dead thing, man. Keep it going, what you have right here. But while I was in that moment and while they were in the pocket and while I was locked in, it was special. It was really, really cool. And I was just frustrated because I was like, don't bookend this with this stuff. Now, this is just my expectations. Again, this is me going in super bias. And when I hear something, I'm like, no, don't do that. Do this. I'm trying to control it. Right. And when that moment happened for that few minutes that was happening, I was so excited that when it almost felt like it was just fleeting. And when it was gone at the end, I was like, dang it. Just keep it going. That's what I want to hear. It just felt like a great moment that didn't need to be bookended that way for me, totally personal. I give that video A, Chris.
Wow. Okay. So 97 and 99 is my favorite 3 years. They left it all on the table this night. They played New Year's. So they play New Year's Eve. It's like a staple of theirs. every New Year's Eve show they've played is Spins. Are you still there? Because you froze. Spins. I think we may have lost him. I think it got to him. Hold on, folks. All right, I'll do my best. Final kicks. Thank you for your support, VK. So Jason's talking about this show. It looks like we lost Spins, but he'll be back. So this is my favorite era, as I mentioned. These 3 years are just like really what I love the most. And this was the last show they played before a massive hiatus of about, I guess, 2 years. I think they came back in late 2020, late 2002. What Jason's describing is really the kind of like a funk era. It's on the tail end of this cow funk era, as it was dubbed by the fans in '97 into '98. I'm not saying it fits into that category, but it's definitely on the heels of that. This is arguably peak era for them. They're playing New Year's Eve, which is a staple of theirs now. They're playing Big Cypress, this big Native American reservation in Florida, in the swamplands. They play 8.5 hours, and they walked off stage, and they basically went into hiding for a little bit. And I think they've exhausted themselves. So hold on one second. We got Spins coming in live. Give me a minute. Spins lost power, so I guess it's a one-man show now. Man, I think maybe I might have to call an audible here, and maybe Rojas will join the stream. Give me a second. Anyway, so I'm going to finish up my comments on this. So this is a pretty epic performance, and we'll make the playlist public. But essentially, this is a peak closing of an era. And the thing about Phish is that as you go through their career, again, started in 83, I'm sorry. And that was like when they were more of a college band in the Northeast, and they quickly accelerate through the ranks, and you kind of break up their tours and their runs into these pockets of eras. Well, 97 to 99 is a pretty important one. Before that, it was probably 94 to 96, and before that, probably 91 into 94. It's kind of these definitive sounds, not so much related to the albums of the band, but more how they were approaching the live music and the live show. Hold on one second. All right, Spins has a major outage, major storm, so he's going to try to come in on his phone. Anyway, so that's the other beauty of this is, like, you talk about bands. Usually, bands are defined by eras, by the albums they release, right? Think about your favorite band, your favorite artist. They put a group of albums together over a run of a few years, or they have a distinct sound for a run a few years. Fish's eras are basically based upon approaches. Some of the eras are based upon turmoil in the band, transition periods personally of the band, and that comes through in the music. So 99 was a really big cap. And commercially, I think this is probably the biggest they ever were. They had been on the cover of Rolling Stone a couple of times at this point, I think, or at least once. Their New Year's Eve performance had like a 2-minute snippet on ABC, from the Millennium concerts around the world. So this is an interesting phase for them. This is difficult now for me to be a talking head. This is why I don't make videos on my own channel and I participate in live streams. Obviously, Spins had 2 more songs to go over, and then I hesitantly gave him 2 studio albums that he should maybe listen to understand. But I'm going to look at the chat now, and hopefully some of you guys that are huge supporters can bail me out. Does anybody have questions, comments, attacks on the band, things they hate about them, rebuttals to Rojas's comments, anything like that? That would be great. As I take another call from Spins, this is why we do it. Oh, Spins has a message for the viewers.
Guys, it's a massive storm here. The power went out. I have no internet. I have no nothing. I'm calling Chris here just to send you that message. So my apologies. But Chris is going to take care of you. And we'll try to get Jason. Maybe Jason will jump on Rojas. So we'll see what we can do. Sorry, guys. I'm going to watch the replay after, man. So we're going to need to do a part 2. All right, Chris, take it away.
All right, cool. I think I have some reinforcements coming in, guys. So we'll see. Somebody's got to have a question. Don't make this awkward for me. You're leaving me all alone on an island here. Vinyl and Kicks, because you are always a willing participant. I don't know if Felipe's still here. Any comments, questions on the band overall of what you've seen? Do you hate them? Do you love them? Do you have any care in the world? Favorite studio record, Andy G? I would say, obviously, Billy Breathes is awesome. I like Rift a lot. I like Picture of Nectar. I like Round Room. As studio records, I like them, but I enjoy more seeing the evolution of some of those songs live because the studio versions, for the most part, pale in comparison, right? But I would say those are some of my favorites. I don't have a record that I dislike. I think they all have like standout things that are great about them, but they're not really an album band. And when they tried to be an album band, i.e., you mentioned Farmhouse earlier, which is like a quote unquote commercial success. That has some interesting tunes. Obviously, I gave Spin spoiler. I gave him Billy Breeds and Story of the Ghost. I felt like those are the 2 most accessible. Wow, 400 times. Yeah, seeing Phish 400 times would be fantastic. I'm never going to get to that number, but that's okay. Oh, 400 times last year. I must be a troll. Point of sarcasm here. Yeah, so Andy G, those are my favorite. Yeah, Junta, that is a really good album. And what's cool about those songs is those are mostly compositions, if you think about it, right? That really reveals the band's ability, and mostly Trey's ability, I think, to really write pieces of music, which is something that gets lost on people too. What seems like is a jam is actually a calculated, orchestrated piece. And it just takes time to kind of recognize that. If I'm just throwing somebody a random video, they're not really necessarily always going to pick up on that. But yeah, that's a classic for sure. Let's see. I think we're going to get some reinforcements from the VC. So Andy G, how long have you been a fan of the band?
Yo, you need some help?
Concert buddy. I need a. How could you come and say, "Do I need some help?" and you have OJ Simpson lurking over your shoulder? Now I'm scared.
Hey, listen, the juice is loose. Listen. Oh, juice is loose.
Man, thanks for.
I'll try to help you until Spence comes. I even found a little beanie. Found a little
I like
beanie,
it.
so I
I
could
like it.
come on up. I'm not even in the home studio, but I wanted to try to help you out if I could. So I've never seen Phish, but I've seen jam bands. So I've seen Galactic, I've seen The
Galactic.
Dead, I've seen things I shouldn't have seen at some of these shows. So
Yes.
you're gonna have
Yes,
to,
you
have to
will.
guide me because I don't know a lot about Phish, so I don't have the preloaded materials. But let's walk through it.
Galactic's a trip. I saw Galactic actually open up for Trey Anastasio solo in Roseland Ballroom several years ago, and they are a wild band live. Are they still even touring?
I think so. So the first time I saw them was 2010. I saw them at Bonnaroo, and it was just kind of like a happenstance thing. Me and my buddy were getting some beers, went to the main stage. I was like, I've heard of Galactic, but I don't know what it is. And then it turned out that I knew the voice because they always have guest singers, right? And the voice was real familiar, and this is black guy, and I was like, God damn, I know where this guy. It was Corey Glover of In Living Color, right?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Living Color. And I was like, I know this guy. And then, because he didn't have the dreads, right? Like when you used to wear the body glove thing. And I was like, these guys are all right. And so fast forward a couple years later, and they come back through my town, and I took a date there, and she enjoyed the hell out of it. She was enjoying herself. And so later I was enjoying myself, if you know what I'm saying.
Wait a second. So 2010 Bonnaroo, was that Jay-Z, Stevie Wonder?
No.
Okay. So
I'm sorry. Hang on. Is it 2010 or 2011? I want to say it might have been 2011. I don't have the poster down here. That was the big ones that year were Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young got back together, Eminem, Arcade Fire. Trying to think, Mumford and Sons.
Okay, so I was at 2010. That was the last Bonnaroo I went to. So I think
so it must have been 11. It was the anniversary. We went on the 10th anniversary of Bonnaroo, and that same year was 20th anniversary of Lollapalooza. So we did a lot of festivals.
Yeah, so 2011 Bonnaroo. Let's see. Yep, that was the one you were at. So I was at the year before. That was Eminem, Arcade Fire, Widespread Panic, Black Keys, Buffalo Springfield.
So I did drop in on Panic because they have a guitar player who shares the same last name as I do, and so I was like, probably my brother from another mother kind of thing. And I think that was on Sunday night. We were pretty beat by Sunday night. That was the year that the Heat and Mavs were playing in the finals. And they have I'm sure they had it when you were there. They have an air conditioned tent. You can go watch film premieres, documentaries. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there premiering a documentary. Anyway, Game 6, Cavs and Heat, and we go into the air conditioning and kind of chilled out for a little bit. Come back out. Panic's playing. The Strokes, if Caesar's here. That was when I saw the Strokes. So that was good Bonnaroo.
When you were at that Bonnaroo, did they have the silent disco when you were there?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Is that the craziest thing you've ever seen?
I mean, listen, there was a lot of crazy moments between, seeing Lil Wayne in a field in Manchester, Tennessee at 2 a.m. You know what I mean? Performing the silent rave. We may have had some libations and lost our car. So we're 5 a.m. in the middle of a field trying to find it. It was a rental car. So that may even worse. So there's a lot of firsts and onlys.
We nicknamed Bonnaroo Conaroo because we felt like every time we wanted to see a band, we had to sacrifice seeing another. We were like,
yeah.
It's
you gotta make choices.
So that was my last experience there. And then did you have the experience of it being 5:15 in the morning and you're dripping sweat and you wake up and you think it's 11:30, but it's 5:15 and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing here right now? Why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, there was a lot of wildness. I mean, we stayed in this hotel that was terrible.
Oh, you did a hotel? Okay.
Yeah, we got a hotel because my buddy is a germaphobe, and so we had to go back. That's why I mean, the night we were out long till 5 a.m, we found our car, the rental car. Eventually, went back to the hotel, slept for maybe a couple hours, and of course, this place, the Jamison Inn in where the hell was it? It was the city, Tullahoma, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it's like one of these hotels that people go to do drugs or die in. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Not really safe for music festivals. And of course, they book us with a 1 bed, right? So I'm like, man, I'll just take the floor. Door didn't even close all the way, so I was like, I'm probably going to be murdered. Like there was a gap, the door was just gapped the whole time. So yeah, so that morning we came home, we slept for a couple hours, went to the Subway next door by the Walmart, and then just reloaded, and we were back at it.
Yeah. Was that your last Bonnaroo?
Yeah, I've only been to Bonnaroo once. I've been to Lala a couple times, but
Yeah.
that was festival year. We really hit it hard that year. It was a good
So
time.
this is how we tie Phish back to Bonnaroo, besides the fact they played there. So the festivals are what they are now because of the Phish model. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but
Tell me.
they were putting on festivals themselves, and they still do occasionally, where they just play 3 days and it's just them, and they create basically a whole experience and world where there's themes going on, there's different exhibits and all types of crazy stuff. There's a lot to get into, but it's known and documented that Bonnaroo basically comes out of that Phish model, which then spread to Coachella and not so much Lollapalooza, because those are traveling festivals, but these festivals that are like 3 days in one place or 4 days in one place, that comes out of some of the innovations that Phish made, both artistically, technologically, economically. Like they really were the model there. There's one good podcast called Long May You Run, where they spend like a whole episode on this idea. And a lot of the business partners or people that were driving the operations of the Phish Festival wound up taking on things to Bonnaroo and things like that. Jameson by the Walmart.
Yeah, 100% Vinyl on Kicks 86. Like just think about two dude bros stumbling over to the Subway that opens at 10:30, getting a couple of those $5 footlongs, a bag of cookies, and then you're just back in the car heading back to the fields of Manchester, Tennessee to just, we were wearing wife beaters. It was a total who embrace your inner Hoosier thing. Plus, we got decent weather. It rained a little bit, so there's a little bit of mud. But you've been there, right? You never want to by day 4, you don't want to be by the porta potty area because there's been some spillage, and it's just rank. And of course, they put it near the food, which I thought was a really curious decision. So if you want to get a slice, and then there's a big stench, it's not a good thing. But that was a lot of fun.
So imagine 4 dudes from New York in that atmosphere. We were like, well, my friends are tougher
did you
than
guys
I am.
camp out though? Did you camp on the ground?
Yeah, we camped out like idiots.
You did it right. You did it right. Yeah.
No, like idiots. I'm like way too bougie for that now, I guess.
We have this clean cut guy. Here's a real Phish head right here.
Welcome back.
Man, I don't even know what I'm doing here.
But this is the VC at its finest. Spins apparently pulled the plug on his power. Some kind of storm came through.
He's just trying to avoid that hard Phish question, right?
I'm sitting up here like a poor man's Tom Brokaw trying to carry the message, and he's calling me. I got on a speakerphone. Concert buddies like, I'll help you out. I'm asking people for help. I don't know what's going on. So what do we do now, fellas? Do we just end the stream, or do you want to carry on this conversation?
No, listen, let's pull all those little morsels out of you. I mean, again, I only have a limited experience with jam band patronage, so educate me. I can tell you one of the best burger joints in town. He's a big Phish head. You go into a spot, he's got these loops of videos. It's like I don't even need to ask anymore. I'm like, oh, this is Phish, and because if I talk to him, he's going to tell me exactly where he was, exactly how much drugs he did that day, exactly how long he was in that city. I mean, hell of a burger. I mean, this is Max Local Eats. Cheap plug. But
I wonder if he sells the burgers on the lot when he goes on tour.
Well, they're all organic. They're like the healthy, but I mean, they're expensive. So I guess those two things go hand in hand.
I'm just going to say for Phish, sometimes I prefer a sea bass. If you cook that thing very well,
healthy choice.
Kiss.
Come on, Rojas. I mean, this is we got to really commend the VC here. These two guys take time out of their Monday night to bail me out.
Well, it was this or Monday Night Raw, and so it was kind of a lull in the programming, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna step in and pretend. And I'm not even gonna pretend. I mean, I told you I've never seen Phish. Contrary to some of these jabronis in the gallery, I think I've been seeing Phish with some more jabronis. That's never happened. That's what we call fake news. Never saw.
How do you be such a connoisseur of the 90s and 2000s and never stumble across one show? Especially
Did you miss the episode on butt rock, Chris? We had an episode on butt rock.
I did not miss the episode.
I was heavily indoctrinated by the time of butt rock, and so I was going to Limp Bizkit shows. I was going probably places I shouldn't even. I was going to a place called Pops over in Sauget, Illinois. That's the only place you could see some of these emerging alternative rock bands. And then when they would get done, then you could stumble over to where single mothers are putting their children through college establishments.
So you haven't stumbled across Kid Rock sitting in with Phish yet?
No, I mean I've seen Bob a couple times. I mean I went to the tour that he had $5 beers. That was a delight. But no, I haven't.
The video exists.
And I believe it. Listen, I don't. Bob's not really my cup of tea in a lot of ways, but he's a multi-instrumentalist, and he's got some chops. I mean, he's like what they call Dollar Tree Bob Seger. Is that a fair assessment? Dollar Tree Bob Seger.
This is this might tickle your fancy a little bit. This is a show in
Vegas.
I
love to be tickled.
And 90s legend, well, more than 90s legend, but Les Claypool also sat in it during the show. Yeah. So now we're
almost bassist for Metallica, Les Claypool. Well, not even almost.
Rojas, what's your take on the Phish spamming I give you on a daily basis?
I'm a very accepting person. You're not on that chat with Jose, and
Oh, that gets dicey and spicy sometimes.
I'm okay with it. I'm very open-minded, as there's only a few. I did tell you that story where I allowed my brother to play Creed for a full hour. I was okay with it, and then I was like, okay, I think you had your fill. I've had my fill of this, But I'm not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I accepted Creed in my heart and Phish. So like I said, I don't I actually do listen to the links you sent me, the Phish.
So you're the one.
That's him.
Correct.
That's him.
I like it, bro. I listen to your links too. Appreciate you.
Even that one the Chris Stapleton that you sent me, that's actually super good. Surprisingly just amazing.
Nasty. Bobby Caldwell effect.
Yes.
You're like, wait a second. Is that Al Green? No, it's Chris Stapleton. What the hell is going on here?
I feel like if you remember Charles Bradley, do you remember Charles Bradley?
Yes, Daptone, the Screaming Eagle. Now we're talking. Let's go.
So I have a bunch of stories about him because I met him and
he's a hugger. He's great.
Oh yes,
Beautiful man.
One of the quickest stories I can say was that I told him hey, when are you gonna drop that funk record? And then he told me in that gruffy voice, he had a very Tom Waits voice, right? When you would speak with him, he was like, Jason, it's hard to make it in America. It's hard to make it in America. I was like,
yeah, first name basis with Charles Bradley. How did I not know this?
He was close to me, whispering this in my ear, and I was just like, dude,
I've seen Charles all over. I've seen him. I saw him in Gulf Shores. I saw him several times here in the Lou. I've seen him just talking about Lollapalooza. He opened Lollapalooza on the main stage one year I went. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The thing about Charles Bradley, had he lived, he probably would have covered Chris Stapleton. That's where I'm coming from.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
He would have covered that song that you sent me.
I got to be honest. I know people love Sharon Jones, Miss Sharon Jones. She's great. But Charles is my guy. Charles is. He's my favorite of that team.
Funniest story about Sharon Jones. Saw her when I guess she was going to the merch table, and I go, Sharon Jones, group hug, yeah. And she gave my friend a hug, and then she looked at me. She looked at me. She's like, "You said group hug, right?" Oh man, Sharon Jones.
Oh man,
she's a listener. I was like, oh man. So I was really bummed out when she died and passed away. Man, no way. She was the best.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see her
Yeah.
Especially being in New York, she was just the bomb. The bomb. I never saw Charles Bradley though.
Oof, Screaming Eagle. Like
Oh
it's
man.
Concert Buddy said, there's
Yo,
nothing
this
like
guy could
him.
dance. The guy could sing. I mean, so he was in now this is for the folks in the audience who want a big taste of the nothing burger. I'm about to give you a double patty, so chew on up. So in New York, where Charles Bradley cut his chops, first he was like a cook in the Navy or something like that. That's really how he spent a lot of his time. He's very close to his mother. He was a James Brown impersonator, and he would do clubs, and he was called Black Velvet. And
Oh,
so
really?
Black Belt, yeah. So like because he sounds very similar, and a lot of his moves are inspired, air quote, inspired by the Godfather of Soul. And so he didn't get success in life. I guess it wasn't until his late 50s, Jason, when he connected with the
Yeah.
Daptone guys.
It's later. Like
Yeah,
later.
so in his 60s, so early, because I think he died at 63, I want to say. But anyway, so yeah, he got a break on because Daptone is kind of very similar to Coal Mine, kind of a
Right.
retro throwback. Obviously, Miss Sharon Jones was kind of the signature performer on the label, and yeah, Charles was World Going Up in Flames. I mean, the Changes album where he covers the Black Sabbath Changes song.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Killer.
He covered didn't he cover Stay Away by Nirvana? I mean, he would take like contemporary songs and put like the soul and he had such a not only the voice, but you could tell this guy lived a life because you could feel he was very emotive with the way he performed, the way he sang, and the
The
performance.
soul singer.
Yeah. And this dude could dance, and he would come out and he'd be wearing these like velour jumpsuits, and he would do this like slow motion thing because he was the Screaming Eagle, Daddy. And he'd come out there, and man, it was such a bummer in our house when he passed.
Yeah, he passed like what, like 2015, 16?
17 maybe, because
17.
so last time I saw him, he did a festival here in St. Louis called Lou Fest. And I actually brought like my album jackets. I wore a backpack and I took the records out and I was like, we're going to meet Charles again. I want to get these things signed. But I didn't know, I guess he was sick because he died of cancer. And so he performed and he was supposed to do a meet and greet, didn't do a meet and greet, but he did come out like anytime he finished a set, he'd come out and just hug people. Like that was the way he closed shows, right? And so when he came out, he's like, I can't sign anything. But he's like hugging the hell out of us and all that stuff. And then find out, less than a year later, he's sick and was dragged. Plus, I think his brother was killed. Like either his brother was killed or was like a drug addict or something. I mean, this guy's life was like rife with trauma, drama, like, but yet he was able to touch the world. It's amazing.
Except he never made that funk record. Man, I would have been all over for
He would have
that.
done it, man. And those guys, I don't know who's the guy who runs that label, because he was also one of the extraordinaires, right? He was like the piano player, I think he was, because he was the guy to come out and introduce Charles when they'd get ready to perform. But he really pushed Charles in a lot of interesting directions musically.
Yeah, what is Daptone doing now? Are they still around? I feel like
they're just reissuing Sharon Jones and Charles Bradley 45.
There's a radio station in New York, WFUV, which is the Fordham radio station, it's a college radio station, but it's like it's huge. I mean,
Atlantic 10, baby.
It's huge. Yeah, A10, that's right. And they were like, that was like their label. Like that's how we all found out about them. Like, we're like, what is this? Like, what is this Motown song we're hearing? We're like, no, that's the new one from whoever. We're like, what? Like, what is this label? So they kind of caused a craze in New York in the early 2000s or mid 2000s for us. And then obviously Sharon was huge in that. And then obviously the Daptones backed Amy Winehouse, right? On was it Back to Black, right?
Yes.
So that was a big deal for them. And then I don't know if this is accurate, but there's the guy, the horn player in the Roots, Chief Keef. Is that him? I feel like he's off that label too, or he was on that label.
Chief
Or was
Keef,
one of the
a hip hop guy, or they share the name? Because I know.
I think they kind of shared the name. Maybe I might be getting that name wrong. Hold on. He has actually a club not far from let's see. Yeah, I'm butchering that. That is the rapper. Hold on. I'm going to the Google machine here.
Now, see, I would say for one night only, we can lay down our arms And if the one they call Vaginal wants to talk Phish, because I know this is his thing, and can you behave like a gentleman? I think I'm okay with it. I don't know if everyone else is, but if you want to come on up, big man, as they like to say, and talk about Trey Anastasio's picking technique for one night only, I think that's reasonable.
Uncle Chief. I'm sorry, Uncle Chief.
Oh,
not Chief
that's
Keef.
close. Chief Keef,
Yeah.
Uncle Chief.
Anyway, he's got a club, I don't know, 15 minutes from me, that he just opened. But he's the horn player, one of the horn players in the Roots. I feel like he was one of the Dap Tones. I could be wrong about that. Just looking now. Yeah, Ian Hendrickson Smith. Anyway, so I have nothing more to say on Phish because my whole show here tonight with Spins was, yeah. Hold on 1 second. Ian Hendrickson Smith is in the Roots. He was a touring member with Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings.
There we go. So there's the connect. All right.
So my whole show with Phish was I gave him 2 studio albums, which is not the right way to listen to this band, I think. And then I gave him a playlist of live stuff, and he actually did his homework. I'm shocked. And you can see he had comments on it. So we were kind of going through his impressions of the tunes. There's a million ways to skin this cat. I mean, if you ask 100 Phish fans, they're going to give you 100 different playlists to try. It's just all perspective and what you're interested in, what you like. And then, his girlfriend shut the power off because she couldn't take it anymore. She said they sound too much like the Grateful Dead, and she's had enough. And here's where we are. So we have an impromptu. This is the demo of Surface Noise A and B happening on a Monday night. This is the raw cut.
Well,
the song sketches.
Let me ask you this, Phish man. So my understanding from 10,000 feet away is that the pinnacle of Fishdom, or maybe it's something that happens every year. I don't know. Again, don't they play like a series of MSG shows, or was that like the apex of their commercial? If there was any commercial success, was this run of MSG shows? I seem to have this kind of in my mind. Tell me about it.
Well, MSG is their home.
So it's their home base. Okay.
Yeah, I think they've now played there more than Billy Joel, thankfully.
What?
Thankfully. Wow.
And,
come on, we gotta get William Joel.
Jeez.
I bartended for a long time. If I ever hear Piano Man again, I might buy a copy of Rumors. That's how much.
That's one of my karaoke go-tos, man. Now I know. I'll not do that in front of you.
So they go ahead, Ross.
I'm just saying, Phish never made a metal record like Attila, like Billy.
Not that you know of.
So.
Not that you know of, but they have metal-esque songs.
Correct. They could do it, and I think if they do that, then I guess they'll be better than Billy Joel, right?
Well, so Chris, you said that your sweet spot for Phish, if I heard correctly before I come down, 97 to 99. Did I pick that up?
That's my favorite. That's my favorite era, but it doesn't mean that's the old.
Was there a lot of like trading of tapes on like the torrents or like net? What hell was that called?
BitTorrent.
BitTorrent or Napster. Is that how the Phish, like the dead people, they kind of get around like that?
Yeah, there was taping, and then when everything went digital, it was like it was like tapes that happened. That still occurs to a certain extent with like some OG heads. The tapes are still desirable. Then the digital age happened, and then you went from digital age to people being camped up in college dorm rooms with high-speed internet access. So it was just like
it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Sure.
Like keep it coming, but Phish turned that into a business model. There's a live Phish app that you pay for $100 a year. You get all of their studio albums like streaming, and you get archival shows, not the entire, run of their shows previously, but you get archival releases. But then everywhere from I think 2011 on, every show is posted. So I was telling Spins this offline. Show ends at 11:30 on a Tuesday night. By 12:30, the whole soundboard is there.
I was going to ask, is it board quality? Has to be.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like they got it down to a science. Now, Chance, you are a hockey fan. Are you a St. Louis Blues fan?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, it's. I was just at the game Saturday, so I guess sometimes.
So here's a little Phish trivia for you, or I wouldn't say trivia because I'm not going to ask you. So they're playing your area the night the Blues win the cup.
Oh no shit, that's funny because so they must have been in adjacent. Yeah, actually, that sounds a little familiar because
Playing
I was
outdoors.
actually I was in the Blues arena. We paid a ticket and we watched the game 7 from the arena. So they must have been playing at Shea Fitz or something, not too close, not too far from there.
I'll pull up the venue now, but they come out in the second set and they open up with Gloria to tribute the
Which
St.
was
Louis
the theme
Blues,
song for 2019. Yes,
and
Miss
then
Laura
they go right into the Rolling Stones' "Loving Cup." See what they did there?
Oh,
Sneaky,
like all right,
sneaky.
All right, you're
So,
starting to thaw this cold heart. Okay, all right.
So the MSG thing is big. They play traditionally, especially the past decade, they play 4 nights leading up. They play 4 nights around New Year's. They play 28th, 29th, 30th, and New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is the big epic thing. I usually go the first 3 nights. They 2 summers ago they played 7 times in 9 nights. I went to that. Was not at all of the Baker's dozen, but in 2017 they played 13 nights over a 2.5 week run at MSG, and yes, they did not repeat a song for the 13 nights. That is something strategic. When you go see them 4 nights in a row, you don't hear a repeat. When I saw them the 7 times, you don't hear a repeat. The perception is, well, that's because they play a lot of covers. Yes, they do play covers,
Yeah, but they also jam. So they turn a 7-minute song into a 24-minute song. Like, I know how this recipe goes.
Exactly. The cool thing about that Baker's Dozen run is there's a theme to this, which you guys might get a crack up at. So obviously Baker's Dozen is 13 bakery. They got sponsored by Federal Donuts in Philadelphia. So every night when you went to the show, as you walked in, you got a different flavored donut as you entered the arena. Here's the crazy part. The flavor of the donut impacted the theme of the set list.
So give me an example.
So one night was donut holes. So they opened up with They opened up in the middle of August.
Show, Chris, the family show. Let's be real clear on this.
They opened up with Tom Waits' Down in a Hole, and in the middle of August, in the second set, they did a jam into "Oh Holy Night" vocally, and then went back into their tunes.
Okay, all right.
Strawberry Glaze Night, they did Shuggy Otis's Strawberry Letter 23. They did an a cappella version of Beatles' Strawberry Fields Forever. Cinnamon Night, yes, they busted out Cinnamon Girl by Neil Young.
Of course, come on, low-hanging fruit.
On the jam-filled night, they jammed on their own songs that are traditionally not songs they jam on. So you got what is typically a 4-minute tune, you got a 35-minute chaos version of, which everybody was like, oh my God, they would never do this in a normal night, but they played to the theme of the donut.
So if I can compare my limited experience in these jam bands, I'm like, when the Dead do something like this, from the time that I've seen the Dead, the fans, like the super fans, like look at each other and start losing their shit because they know it's some cool stuff. Is that how the Phish people are? Do they start like stomping in place, like they can't contain their excitement? Or, I mean, you're a big man, so I mean, like if you're like shaking, like for excitement, I mean, there's going to be a whole like energy absorption issue. So is that kind of how it goes? Like once like some crazy shit's happening.
It depends. It depends on how involved you are. So I've seen a lot of reiterations of the Dead. Phil Lesh, I've seen a ton since the early 2000s. So the other ones, I saw the Dead
and Friends, the one with Joan Osborne.
I saw that. I've seen a lot of it. I did not see Dead and Company because I can't stomach it anymore.
Johnny's good.
But it's different. It's different with Phish because, believe it or not, the Dead doesn't go off like Phish goes off. They jam, they improvise, but they don't take the music doesn't allow the risks to be taken that Phish takes. So you're right. The fans do start to lose their shit. I would say Dead fans lose their shit because they're getting the song that they've been chasing, or because that happens with the Dead. They don't do a lot of repeats either. Yep. But the vocabulary of Phish as a band, the fans picking up on the nuances of what might be happening. They're starting to speculate. That's where the excitement comes. You hear they'll be in a jam on one song and they might hear notes from another song, and the band may or may not respond to that, what they call a tease. So if Trey starts playing a riff of a song, they might not come along. The rest of the band might be like, nah, not tonight, man. Or they might come along with him for the ride and they might jump into it. So the fans are reacting like that. And I think the level of fanaticism depends on your ability to react to that. So if you've been seeing them since 1991 and you've seen all of these possibilities, then you're picking up on things that somebody who just started seeing them 5 years ago might not even recognize what's going on. They're like, why is everybody losing their mind? And then it kind of gets explained to you. Or you go back and listen to the show and read the forums. You're like, oh, that's what was happening. That makes sense. So it's kind of like this evolution and learning. And sometimes the fans think they know better, but a lot of this, the band knows that the fans know, so they're going to purposely avoid it and almost like troll the crowd to a certain extent and not go there. Does that make sense?
A little bit. Question from the audience, Chris. Are you doing Forest Hills or SPAC? Forest Hills, I'm assuming, is Forest Hills, New York, where the Ramones are birthed.
Forest Hills, Queens, and SPAC, that's Saratoga Performing Arts Center, which is upstate New York. I hate SPAC, so I'm probably not going to go to that. I might go to Forest Hills.
Okay.
Good question,
Jason.
So
your turn. We're gonna pass the mic. We have a real Phish person here. Let's probe him. Let's learn.
Let's learn. No, just kidding.
Have you seen these guys live, Mr. Rojas?
No, I was almost persuaded by my old college friend at one point. He let me borrow Billy Breed's. I did listen to it. At that time, I was moving away from that kind of music.
When you say that kind of music, you mean like jam band type of music? Okay.
At that time, that was very popular at college.
Oh
at
no,
Ohio
yes,
State.
accurate.
It was super popular. Like, people will tend to forget because Ohio State got gentrified, like on the high street, which was like the main drag. But there were all these clubs on the high street, and they hosted a lot of jam bands.
I can see that.
Okay.
That's a Steve Lillywhite vehicle, Billy Breed's.
Oh, okay.
You didn't
So
know
I mean,
that?
at the height, like, when a friend of mine was asking that we form like a band that was like anti-jam band, that was more revolutionary, right? But we couldn't get any gigs because every club was doing very Phish inspired, Dead inspired bands. You see what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure if we grew our hair out and like wore some, faux bell bottoms and jammed out on
Open chest, open chesticles going
jammed
on.
out on like say Weezer, Say It Ain't So, we might
Sure.
have,
I'm just trying to picture Columbus, what I know of Columbus, because you're right. I mean, now it's a lot of clubs. Like, I can't even imagine there being actual real music that doesn't have like Skrillex beat behind it or young ladies. You know what I mean? It's a raging area.
These are like stories I don't really like. I haven't told in like, oh my gosh.
Oh, we got an exclusive. Is there? I think I have. No, I don't.
Like, honestly,
we're digging deep on Ross, but I contended early in the show. I don't really think they're a jam band. I don't like that. I don't like that description of any band that they jam.
I mean, what you've shown to me, like what you've proven to me, is that a lot of the music that they're playing, they're not really necessarily jam band. Like, the fact that each of the members are super talented, good example, like the fact that they were playing Genesis at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when Genesis got inducted, and they played it to the T, like no joke. Like, the fact that, see, that was very helpful. Maybe I will check that out. So thank you for that comment. Sure.
One night only. See, we can all go
No,
on.
I'm being serious here. I'm being serious. Like, he recommended him, like, oh, okay, like, I give it a chance. Why not? The fact that they covered Genesis well, like, that's not easy. The fact that like Phil Collins was giving this very serious look, like very serious, and they were just like, oh man, like, I'm pretty sure Phil Collins is kind of pissed, like, because he would have been up there.
He's angry. He's the old man. He's yelling at the clouds. I mean, he's sad. So, Chris, we got a question here. Vinyl and Kicks 86. Why is a quote jam band kind of seen as an insult?
This could be a long one. I think what Jason's describing, what I showed him, labeling them as a jam band is insulting because that means you're putting them in the category of a bunch of other groups that don't even sniff the virtuosity that each one of those members are capable of. And I think they're more of a prog rock band or a jazz fusion band that happens to play rock songs or bluegrass songs sometimes than they are a jam band. To
So
me,
it's a lazy mischaracterization, you would say.
Yeah, it's a lazy mischaracterization.
Okay.
And having managed a jam band at one point in my life when I was younger, and these guys were really good too. They're not just showing up and like noodling to get to a place. Like the songs are complex, a lot of them. They do have some 4-minute, rock songs. That's fine, but a lot of the pieces they're musical pieces. Trey plays with an orchestra solo. He's done with philharmonic ensembles. He's done the music. Everything, if you pay attention when they talk about Trey, specifically the writing, it's very deliberate. I would argue that none of those guys have ever soloed at a show, even though they play 20-minute songs sometimes, because it all kind of weaves together. If Trey takes on a melody, those guys follow him. They don't just like hold the groove so he can wail on his guitar. So I don't think they're a jam band in that sense. And that's why I find it to be like a negative mischaracterization. That's why I think there's similarities and inspiration from Zappa there, but even Zappa would just go off on tangents sometimes. They're a little bit more calculated when they do try to discover things together. And live, I can see why people think it's a jam because they're improvising, but they're really trying to get to a place together to either finish the song, go into another song, or create a whole new musical idea. To me, that's just spontaneous improvisation, not jamming. Jamming is like noodling, and I don't know. There's just a difference to me. I'm not a musician, so it's hard for me to categorize.
Listen, man, you're a tall guy. I don't want you to give me the hammer fist next time I see you and say,
No.
You called Phish a jam band.
No. I expect people to do that. I do. I'm coming from a very pretentious place, honestly.
No, I mean, you're right. It's like a lazy misinterpretation of it, right? The thing is, like, they're virtuoso musicians. They capture a vibe, and they know how to work that vibe. And whether it means like playing through the peaks and valleys, which means, again, you're going to have like a slow point and then like a fast point and then a peak. Like, they're just master musicians, and they know how to do that,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's why I'm glad you guys bailed me out, because now you're adding value that I could.
No, I'm the noob that came in. So, it's a jam band, and I'm gonna go.
No. But you know what? If you go on Wikipedia or you ask somebody who works in a music store or whoever, like, oh, they're a jam band. That's fine. To me, I'm just being pretentious. Like, don't call my favorite band a jam band. How dare you? And to Rojas's point, culturally in the '90s or late 2000s. You had a counterculture movement to a certain extent that disregarded the jam band scene. And by the way, in that jam band scene was Phish and Dave Matthews and Blues Traveler and the Spin Doctors. And who else am I missing? God Street Wine.
Bad, cheap weed.
Oh, hang on.
And a lot of bad, cheap weed.
The John Butler trio, would you consider them part of that?
John Butler trio coming in like into that Bonners.
Some Medeski Martin Wood, you know what I'm saying?
MMW.
See,
right?
See where I'm going with this? Yeah.
So there's this. So to me, when I think of jam band, I just think of like hacky sacks, $10 swag, and vegan
and those wool
vegan
pullover
burritos
things,
and those wool pullovers.
Yeah, those cheapo sombrero looking things.
But now you go to the Garden for a Phish show, and it's like 10,000 finance guys in North Face vests, and another 10,000 girls, with like butterfly wings on the glitter in their face.
Beyond Eddie Bauer.
So there's like this connotation of like, there's just a negative connotation with jam bands.
Listen, respect. I mean, it's not my jam, and I don't know a lot about them, but what little I do, MSG, I know they pack that place. I mean, that's obviously not an easy thing to do, and
it's not an easy ticket. It's not an easy ticket. It sells out like that. Like, they have their fan lottery. You might win the lottery and get tickets, and the public on sale goes on. Ticketmaster crashes. Like, everybody complains about Taylor Swift crashing Ticketmaster. I'm like, You haven't been a Phish fan for 25 years. Like, it happens twice a year. Like, we know what it's like. Like, come on,
Wow.
get a grip. So
So let me ask you this, Chris. How many, to kind of bring it back to the vinyl community, how many pieces of Phish vinyl do you have, would you say? I mean, is this by far your most collected artist?
no, it's actually the exact opposite.
No kidding. Okay. Tell me.
I get their studio albums. I don't have any of their live stuff on vinyl because there's an app that I get where I have everything. And if you collect Phish vinyl live or Grateful Dead vinyl, like, you could go broke and not have anything else. So I cut
That's
it
what
off.
I'm asking.
Like,
I know you got a family. I'm looking out for your family here. I want to make
Yeah.
sure they're not, eating hand to fist here.
and like I was saying to Spins on this, and like some people have asked about like studio albums. Like, they don't make bad studio albums, but like, it pales in comparison to putting on a live version of one of those songs. So I mean, I have what they reissue, the color variants and whatever, but like, if I saw an OG press of Billy Breeze at WFMU, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Not really into it.
How much is that
like
selling for?
probably a few hundred.
What? Few
I
hundred?
mean, the reissues retail for 40 and they go for 150, 175 because they do limited press and people go crazy. So,
Did you say
I don't know.
40 for the reissue?
yeah.
Hang on a second. I need to get
Hold
on
up,
this
hold up.
email list.
Just-
Hold on a second.
Just paging chatty cakes,
Do you
Your next
have an
business venture.
do you have an OG of Billy Breeze that you're just letting it sit on the shelf? You're like, oh,
No,
fuck it.
no.
Vaginal, I guess, is a friend of the show for tonight and is a Phish fan, so we'll let it slide.
Well, a double secret probation. The topic. Yes.
He
So
he
Phish
does
doesn't have
comment
much
something.
vinyl. Okay.
He does comment something very important. Chris Bellman does cut all their reissues, and he's my favorite rock
Wow.
engineer. So
That's interesting because I know Bellman also, speaking of Dave Matthews, the little I know of Dave Matthews, Bellman is also usually their go-to guy, just like he's the Petty Estate go-to guy. So I guess
Neil Young.
Is it because of like a Steve Lillywhite? You brought up Steve Lillywhite earlier. Is it the Steve Lillywhite common thread there?
Lillywhite just did the one record with them, and I think that was a move to give them some kind of commercial credibility. Not disparaging that record, but I don't think Lillywhite just like takes on Phish as like a chance. I think he probably saw something in them to say like, all right, I think I can work with these guys. But no, I think they're pretty much, well, who's the guy? Vance something. He's a producer. He just did their last 2 albums, I think. Vance.
Bob Vance, Advanced Refrigeration. I don't know if he's in the music business.
No. Hold on, I'll get you his name.
It's probably not JD Vance.
Vance Powell, who did Jack White, Chris Stapleton, Raconteurs. He did the last Phish record as well. Maybe the last 2.
Chris, you got family
Anyway.
in the crowd. You better say goodnight to him. This is good business.
Oh, good night, Mom. Thanks for showing up.
See, I didn't know who it was. I just wanted to,
Yeah, that's
you
all
can't
right.
touch them.
I could always count on one person watching Spins on a Monday, so that's good.
Hey, I duck in. I duck in, and I'll watch a little bit. Sometimes I'll be like I said, I'm watching that wrestling, or we come back in and out, bebopping on Monday nights, cheap pasta nights.
Well, there's a connection to Phish and wrestling too. Like, unlike the WWE, Phish is not scripted when they take the stage.
Wow,
I'm not.
Wow, savage. Can't believe you went there. Do you understand? These guys, it's called sports entertainment. Come on.
So, what are some of the jam bands you guys have seen? Have you seen Mo, String Cheese Incident?
String Cheese I've seen. Mo, I dated a girl who loved, she was into Mo, a different girl. Other than the girl I took to Galactic. There's a common thread. Usually there's a female accompaniment with these adventures.
Did you marry somebody who's into jam bands?
So my wife, she loves, like, her wheelhouse is like 70s rock, essentially. Like Stevie Nicks is her person, right? So she was like talking about college. In college, she was into that type of scene, and so she has like a lot of Dead stuff from back then. Trying to think what other, but yeah, like 70s rock is kind of her thing. Now we're really enjoying ourselves with yacht rock lately, if I'm just being candid. In fact, one of our big disputes is how are we gonna, like, Gary Clark Jr. is my guy, but Gary Clark Jr. is performing the same time as the Doobies, and we've skated on the Doobies the last 2 years for various reasons, and so I've got it. The songbird of our generation, Michael McDonald. I can't miss him live. I gotta see him because I'm gonna keep putting it off and off. So I made a conscious choice not to buy Gary Clark tickets because we're gonna get Doobies tickets. Christopher
You're playing the
Cross.
same night?
Yes, they're playing the same night. So
who
Gary,
does
Gary,
that?
Gary,
Who does that?
different venues. So Gary's playing this place called the Pageant. It's a club down like by Sun Delmar Loop. Anyway, I think it's a late ad because he had already announced some dates for this summer tour, and St. Louis is literally the last date, which usually is, I don't know, but you guys feel this way, but I love the last night of the tour because they just let it they just let it all go. Like there's a great energy. They're like, fuck, we're done. Sometimes, like I saw the Chili's on their last tour last year, and the last date was St. Louis, and they really had some fun. But yeah, so Gary just announced this, and literally 2 weeks ago, my wife was like, "Oh, the Doobies are coming again. We got to go because the last 2 years we just weren't able to go." Okay. And then Gary got announced. I'm like, "Fuck." So, and then Christopher Cross is coming, but I told her the real dream scenario. I know I'm kind of going off here. Is I want to get Christopher Cross and the Doobies. That's why they need like a yacht rock festival, because then you could have Run Like the Wind. That's like the one thing I got to see. I got to see Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald do that chorus and Run Like the Wind. Like, come on.
Wait, isn't there a yacht rock cruise? I'm pretty sure there was, but I think it's like the B list. Like no offense to Christopher Cross, like he might have been the headliner, but then it was
right,
like
Kenny
America might have been
Loggins
on
is not
it.
doing the yacht rock cruise. Yeah, maybe Boss Skaggs is. Yeah,
I do have an idea. Is it possible, given the places they are in their career, that you could catch the Doobies? They'll be off stage by 10, and Gary Clark will be on his third song, and you can hit.
Problem is, it's different parts of town. So the amphitheater is like very far west. It's actually by a borderline toxic waste dump, and so to go from the Doobies, let's say they end at 10, to then get to where Gary is playing, you'd be there almost like maybe Gary would have 2 or 3 songs left in him. I mean, he can noodle. I mean, talk about noodle. Like when he gets into it, like when My Train rolls in, takes you to another place.
Killer.
But anyway, yeah, I've seen Gary like 11 times. Like talk about Bonnaroo.
Oh, nice.
That Bonnaroo trip that's where we learned about Gary, because my buddy's getting a beer, taking a leak, one of those things. And they had like this emerging artist tent. And we had dropped by a couple times. We saw this guy named Bobby Long and a couple of people I was a little loosely familiar with. And I'm just kind of standing there, just kind of people watching. And I hear this big guitar roar. Whoa, what's going on? It's right behind me. So I duck in, and it was Gary Clark. And so my buddy was like, yo, we got to check this out. And Gary like blew us away. So like we waited till after. It was so small that like we waited till afterwards and talked to him and stuff. And, learned he's from Austin and whatever. Could have been nicer. But since then, like, awesome. Like,
yeah, he's amazing. My wife just sent me a message. She would like to mention to everybody that she's very glad I don't have a whole lot of Phish albums, so she doesn't have to hear it. And because mostly when I listen to Phish, it's digital, which means it goes headphones or in the car. Now I've taken my wife to 2 Phish shows. Phish plays 2 sets, hour and 10 minutes the first set, and then whatever happens in the second.
Now, who did that first, the Dead or Phish? Because the Dead do that too, right? Like I've only seen
the Dead play 2 sets.
Right.
Phish. Dave Matthews used to play 2 sets. He stopped that as he's gotten older. He plays 1 now. But usually she's good for the first set, then the alcohol starts to wear off, and then by the second set she wants to kill everybody around her, including me. So she's a good sport. I usually have to bribe her a little bit with a nice dinner beforehand. And she has moments where she's like, I kind of like this. And then she's like, but it doesn't stop, so I don't like it anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's fair.
See, that was my rub, right? And again, I not trying to be offensive, but my limited experience with the jam band variety is the songs, like talking about Galactic, right? Like we're seeing Galactic. I had this young lady with me, and the songs just kept going on and on. And the good news was that she was really into it. She's dancing up on me, she's drinking. Things were looking really good, but the songs kept going on and on. I'm like, all right, guys, I need to wrap this up because I got good to go. I got places to go. This young lady's ready. And the music just kept going on and on and on. I'm like, come on, bros, like, do me a solid. Let's go. But I mean, it's good music. Don't get it twisted. But hey, places to be.
It's not for everybody. And I'll say this, like, I can consciously say, like, I've seen String Cheese. I've enjoyed seeing them live. I've seen Mo. I don't listen to them though. Phish is the only one. I mean, if you want to put their dinner, I don't listen to anything else like that. You know, and you know what drives me nuts too is that people listen to like Pharoah Sanders take a shit in 1976 on a record for 40 minutes, but they can't listen to Phish. Like, you don't play the instrument. Like, you're not a jazz student, and you get that. You really get that. You know, Pharoah on Impulse. Well, I love Pharoah, by the way. But
was that Pharoah
Phish
taking a shit album? Was that part of the Verb by Request series? I need to make a note real quick.
It's coming soon.
Soon.
Extra reverb added by Kevin Gray.
Ooh, yeah, a lot of flapping and gapping on that one. Yeah. Oof. So do you have so knowing Phish isn't like putting it, well, they put stuff on vinyl, but you're not really into that. Do you have more Dave Matthews albums on vinyl than you do Phish?
Yes, yeah. Well,
Okay.
I don't know if I have more, but there's.
We've talked a little bit about that before.
Yeah.
Offline.
I love that band. I've seen them the most out of anybody, but they're like my Taylor Swift. Like, that's just never gonna leave me. I've been seeing them since I'm a kid, and I don't care. I'm proud of it. Like I told Rojas, I love the band. I hate the fans. Like, I'm cool. Like, I'm there for it. It's fine. Okay. I probably have more Dave Matthews just because they have more live stuff, or they don't have more studio albums though.
No, those live tracks things. I mean, those things are like cottage industry. They've got so many. I went to the first. Well, this is so the first concert that was ever at the new 2006 baseball stadium, Busch Stadium 3. 2009 was Dave Matthews, and that's the first time I saw the Black Crowes open up for him. Man, I was excited. I was really there more for the Crowes than Dave Matthews, to be honest with you. Spoiler alert: another lady was with me, and the Black Crowes, way underwhelming. Like, you ever go to a show and they don't play the hits? They play like a different version of the hits. They change the arrangement, or they'll do an acoustic. And I was like, yo, it set the evening off on a real drag. And then Dave came out and actually did pretty well. And it was like my second or third time seeing Dave. And it was back when Boyd was still with them, right? So that's years. And that was a good one.
Those guys are assassins too. Like, individually, they're assassins. And
that live track from Busch Stadium's a good one. They've never put on vinyl. I do have the CD, but for Dave novice,
I'm a nut. I have all the live track CDs, and I get the box sets too. Just because I started, why not keep it going?
Well, that's what you're saying earlier. I mean, you could literally go broke buying all this stuff. I mean, the live track stuff. I know they just reissued some of the signature shows on wax, like Fenway Park. I don't know if have they ever done the Gorge, like that famous Gorge show?
I don't know. They did a 6 CD box set, but not on vinyl.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's the same thing with them though. Like, they're not a jam band, like, because they had a violin for a little while and their songs weren't 4-minute pops. So like, oh, they're a jam band. I'm like, not really. Actually, if you go see them, they play the same jam over and over for every song. They switch it up eventually after a couple of tours, but it's the same jam. You know it's coming. It's not really a jam band. They're just a different band.
Do you like Dave before Tim Reynolds was part of the band, or now that he's like a permanent fixture in the band?
I have a lot to say on
St. Louis boy, by the way, Tim Reynolds. Just shot.
So I will say this: I have nothing against Boyd. I like them better without Boyd now.
Oh, okay.
I miss Leroy a lot. He was an amazing blower, and I liked him with the band, but it's gotten to a point where it's like they have to give him his moment when they don't need to. So he grows tired on me. However, I've seen Dave and Tim acoustic, and that's a whole nother level. Like, that is
like the Luther College show. Like, I know that's one.
Yes, like something like that. I've seen them, like, just them two up there, and that's a whole nother. Like, you have so much more respect for Tim as a player when you see him on acoustic than when you do with the band. Even though he's amazing, he's just a virtuoso too. So like, I've seen them so much. Like, I've seen them with different lineups, go through different things. I've seen them. My favorite time to see them is when they don't have an album out, because then they just dig into everything. Versus like when the album's out, they got to appeal, and they admit to it too live. That's
the best time to see any band. I saw Pearl Jam a couple years ago. They weren't promoting anything, and they played literally 7 cuts from 10. I'm like, wow, it was the best set list I've ever seen. Like, not just because of that, but literally they weren't forcing the new album like on you. Like that's, to me, that's the best time to see a band is when they're not promoting anything.
I agree, and you know, I think that, you know, you're a big Pearl Jam fan, I assume.
Not as big as others, but I'm big enough.
Yeah.
I've grown into it. It's like a old shoe. I've grown into it.
I think Pearl Jam and Dave Matthews Band and Phish, though musically, don't exist together. I think they're all very similar. There's an authenticity about them where they show up for the fans. They enjoy being there. They're not mailing it in every night. And to your point, you can go see Pearl Jam 3 nights and not get a song that you expect to hear, but you're not really disappointed with the whole show. You know, you get the B-sides, you get the deep cuts, you get their covers, whatever it is. Like all of that, there's a common theme amongst these bands. I think that's why they've lasted so long without becoming a gimmick of themselves.
Well,
Those
you
guys
raised another
never really.
point. Yeah, you raised another good point though about those 3 bands. Just talking about them. I mean, the fans are very feverish about them.
Yes.
Like talking about Dave fans are very passionate. Like talking about their shit on their website. Vinyl sells out like that because partly it's color variants, partly it's flippers, but the fans are feverish. Pearl Jam fans, you couldn't get for a long time there. You couldn't get those mid 2000s albums. You couldn't get Self-Titled Avocado, Riot Act. You couldn't get those on vinyl for south of $2.53 bills. And now they've reissued them and it's softened the price a little bit. And I'm assuming Phish probably the same kind of fever fandom when it comes to the passion for the band's probably the same.
It's crazy too, because those 3 guys, this is how important their fans are. And I mentioned this on another stream with Spins. Maybe it's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame B-side. Those 3 bands are the only 3 that actually have power over Ticketmaster. Those 3 bands get ticket allotments to major venues around the world that they can redistribute to their fans before public on sale goes on.
That's true. That's how I get my tickets through Pearl 10 Club.
The 10 Club. And, you know, I know Dave has his fan club and they have the 10 Club. Phish doesn't even have that. They just put a lottery out, you know, to the fans. I'm sure some flippers and scalpers get in there. But that's the other thing that's important too, is that that's why I never knock those guys for being on the road. I never knock those guys for continuing to do what they do because I feel like they want to be there because none of them have to be there. They're still searching and pushing for something that they want to get back to the fans. They're not, and I'm not knocking Billy Joel, but Billy Joel, go look at his garden set list. He plays the same shit every night. Maybe he flips in like the encore to a different song because he knows some people are coming there multiple nights.
And it's muscle memory though too. I mean, you got to understand these are ancient. These are the dinosaurs. And,
no, I understand. I shouldn't have picked on Billy. I'll pick on Taylor Swift, or I'll pick on somebody else, whoever. I mean, I'm a huge Steely Dan fan. I'd go see Steely Dan, and you'd get the same tracks over and over again. So I get it. I know there's appeal to that.
But you never seen that Power Hoosier in the stands play the hits. I mean, there's a reason that is a stereotype, but it's a very sound stereotype. They don't want them talking. They don't want them like sharing stories. They don't want any anecdotal stuff. They just want to hear all the hits.
But it's just like our relationship with vinyl, right? The 3 of us. We forget that as fanatical as we are about what we love, we're the minority, right? The mass appeal is, you know, getting what's common. Like the people that are buying records now that are coming into it, they're just getting what they like, and that's good enough for them. We're like, a record store day sucks because this, and this. It's like, yeah, but it's not for us anymore. Just like that common act. Like I have to realize that I'm not going to use Taylor Swift as a bad example. I don't know. Give me another pop band, guys, or like rock band, like Kings of Leon, let's say, right? Are they even still around? Like the people that like Kings,
you just lost Rojas. You just
the people that like Kings of Leon, they aren't going to 9 Kings of Leon shows. They're going to 1 once a year. That's like their night out to a concert. So they want the hits. Like people like us who are seeing multiple shows, multiple bands, the same band multiple times. We're like, we don't care what they do. Just give us what you want. And that's why you're a fanatic, I guess. Kings of Leon. I don't know where I pulled that from. I think because I looked at the Bonnaroo lineup I was at and they were there. They were like a headliner or something. Tennessee was on fire that night.
Well,
anyway.
Delightful. Well, I think we did a nice job, Chris, of keeping you afloat. I'm sorry to hear that Spins lost power. It sounds like it was clearly a planned targeted attack on the Spins Vinyl Network because, as far as I could tell, you guys were having a nice vibe, and I had my little iPad on my lap. I'm watching you guys chat. I'm watching the WWE's best, and then next thing I know, you're by yourself, and I've seen that look. I've seen Spins that frozen look. I'm like, uh-oh, is he gonna pull the plane up? And nope. And I'm like, well, here we are.
It would have been different if we had a topic that I walked into this not knowing what he was going to say about what I gave him. So I was like, shit. And then I realized too is that I can't really end the stream, I don't think. So
now hang on a second. Jason, is Cesar a Kings of Leon fan? Like this would be a surprise of the year. I mean, Soda Stereo, Mahavahi, what was the other one? Mana? Is that the other one he was promoting? Now Kings of Leon, Cesar, I think the credibility may be in shambles if this is accurate.
We all know Spins pretty well. I think we should close with this, and we can maybe do a mic drop if you guys want, and maybe the facial reactions will say enough here. But Spins is a great dude, salt of the earth. He's really doing his YouTube thing. He was gracious enough to include me, and I got to meet you guys. He's really beat me up about Phish a few times, and I'm wondering if this wasn't really a power outage. I wonder if he maybe took a sick day. Maybe took a sick day, and then we'll leave it at that for the Monday night show.
That is powerful. Wow. Jason, that's controversial. As the most controversial figure in the Val community, what do you think about that?
Just want to say some of the best fish I ever had is the sea bass. If you can get it, it's like butter.
I mean, listen, Lent is coming up. Is that why you're doing this now? Because Lent's coming up?
It's just like butter. It's just like butter. You put it in your mouth and wow.
Aren't fish fillets $2 for $3 in a month or something like that?
What'd she order? Fish fillet.
Fish fillet.
So I mean, that's the tough thing, right? I live in Texas. There is no I could get like seafood easily in Minnesota, like just the best. But living here, and then, I mean, quick story, like a friend of mine, she was like, "Can we go meet at this seafood place?" And I was like, "Are you joking? You joking, right? Joking, yeah." She's not.
Jason Rojas hates Red Lobster, confirmed. He doesn't care if Blake Griffin is dunking all the lobster bites right now.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate this is what the VC is all about, bailing out a rookie when he's staring at the camera with nothing to say.
Can we highlight
throw my beanie on? You know what it is.
Right here. Red snapper kind of guy. Well,
fair enough. Vinyl kicks coming in clutch. I like it.
I guess we'll have to hit some seafood restaurants at WFMU.
Usually, like I said, you know what I like. If we have the time, we have the money, then I'm gonna go to Peter Luger's Steakhouse, and I'm gonna do it right.
Let's go. Get on the plane, Chance. Get on the plane.
Oh man, listen, I told you guys 20%. I was just talking to my wife about this. Like I was like, man, I got a lot of travel coming up, and that one is just not in the cards.
I know, but you gave her the doobies.
Oh, that's a mutual thing. Like, listen, Michael McDonald, the product of Ferguson, Missouri.
Just pretend it's not. Pretend it's not a mutual.
So you've never seen him in concert before, have you?
I've never seen him in concert. No.
I'm going to tell you this: like, once you hear him sing, there's only one person who sings like that. It is unforgettable. He played like an outdoor event in Columbus, Ohio, and my friends and I were walking, and we were like a little late to the show, but like when you hear that voice, like we all looked at each other like, holy shit. Like that's Michael McDonald. Like there is no guy singing like that.
There is no substitute. There's distinguished, yes. Well, no, we were supposed to see him a couple years ago. We had tickets for this, and it's a facility kind of in like central Missouri. And we were all set, and then we got sick. It might have been a COVID. I think we got COVID. So then fast forward to last year, we got like a season ticket pass through our local amphitheater, the one by the toxic dump I was telling you about. And we could go to any shows, right? So let's go to Doobies. And it was so blazing hot. It was like an August show. I don't know why they scheduled these shows in August and September. Like September's not so bad, but August is like, just melt into the pavement. and it was so bloody hot on like a Tuesday night. I was like, yo, I hate to do it. I just can't do it. And so I was like, third time's a charm. And we even said this off season, like if he comes, we got to do it because, you know, and especially the Yacht Rock documentary came out, and I was even more fortified in my convictions. Like when I realized he is literally the glue of the Yacht Rock movement. And so I had to undo this because I found this at a thrift store one time. This is a
Oh my god,
Michael McDonald, and it's not even personalized. This just says thanks, Michael McDonald. This was a brilliant $8 pickup that
That's amazing.
it's just
$8.
taunting.
That's it.
Yeah, $8. I mean, taunting
We
me.
need it.
So
We need a Dukes of September reunion. You know that band? It's Donald Fagen, Boz
Oh, no.
Skaggs.
Did
Donald
you not
Fagen,
read
Boz
his book?
Skaggs.
Did you not read
Yeah,
the book?
of course I read it. Eminent
you got
Hipsters. I thought he was going to
chapter.
kill him. I thought he was going to kill himself at the end. I not only did I read it, I actually listened to the audiobook of him reading it, which is even better than anyway. So that's a fun YouTube rabbit hole. Dukes of September covering like Grateful Dead Shakedown Street. It's amazing.
hey, this is a great way to end the stream, guys. Michael McDonald is that dude.
He is. There's nothing
Truth.
like him, to be honest.
for
Especially if you've
everybody.
not read his autobiography. Like that is I never thought it would be deep. That because it's Michael McDonald, but he goes deep in that book. And
I'm liking everything you're saying right now.
I'm serious, like because when he sings, it's just I don't know, it's so soulful, and then to hear weakness like of Michael McDonald admitting weakness in this book,
Vulnerability.
I was like, man, Michael McDonald, like dude,
All right, hang on. We got to end it with this one because Cesar is demanding. You got to give the people what they want. It's like the OJs. It says, wait, I thought the retired streams were all part of the PC history. Now I'm hearing you talk about McDonald's. Are we 80? A Big Mac and large fries, please. Cesar, you did it. You did it.
Well, thanks everybody for being patient, listening about Phish, and then thanks to my good friends here for bailing me out like a deer in headlights. Wouldn't have it any other way. Everybody have a good night.
Sounds good. Be good.